Roast beef and potatoes served together on a plate, that's classic. Roast beef and potatoes cooked together in the same pan, that's a challenge. But Dan's here, he's the king of roast beef and potatoes, and he's gonna show us a great way to make this happen.
I'm gonna make it happen, I promise. We're gonna start with a top loin roast, which is super beefy, great for the holidays.
Great cut.
So the first thing I'm gonna do is pat it dry. So this is a 5 to 6 pound top loin roast.
Okay.
We got our strip steaks from here. It's a killer, killer roast. So I'm gonna flip this over. You can see this kind of side chain right here.
Right.
We're gonna cut it off and put it to good use in the recipe. Okay, great. And then I'm gonna rotate it, and I'm also gonna take off, this side usually has a bit of fat right here, and I'm gonna take that off as well. We're gonna trim it up so that it's a gorgeous, even rectangle. We know that even things cook really evenly, and that's what we're after. And then I'm gonna cut these scraps into 1-inch pieces. All right, so I'm gonna transfer these scraps to a bowl, and we're gonna refrigerate that along with the roast.
Okay.
We've got a little more work to do on this guy here, and what we're gonna do now is cross-hatch it. That's gonna do a couple of things. It's gonna access the meat for us so we can get salt onto it.
Gotcha.
Which is great. It's also gonna allow more fat to render as we cook, and you get these crispy little edges on all of those cuts. So I'm gonna do about 1/2 inch apart, about 1/4 inch down. We wanna hit the meat, but not go into it. Great, now I'm just gonna rotate and go in the other direction.
A little diamond cut action.
Yes. So we're gonna season this up now, and I have 2 tablespoons of kosher salt and a teaspoon of ground black pepper. I'm just gonna do a little combo. And time to season.
Make it rain, Dan.
You're right. And so on this side, where we have these nice cuts now, I'm gonna try and work it in, really rub it down to the meat. Great. Other side. All right, and that is the last of that. Now I'm gonna use the old clean up your board with the beef technique.
I love the beef sponge.
Yep, just pick up all of that salt that came off the sides. Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna wrap this in plastic, transfer this to my baking sheet, and I'm also gonna wrap up my scraps. Perfect. And so I'll refrigerate that for at least 6 hours and up to 24 hours. It takes a long time for salt to make its way into the meat, and we want it to be really evenly seasoned.
Okay. So Dan's using a top loin roast. Let me show you where it is on the cow. It's right here. This is also known as the short loin, and the top loin is, guess where? Up here at the top, right along the back. Now this is also the cut that you can get strip steaks from. Sometimes it's called a strip roast. And it's a beautiful cut of meat. It's got a nice fat cap on top, lots of connective tissue, marbling, and juicy, juicy, beefy flavor. It's actually comparable to prime rib, but it's $4 less per pound. So when the holidays come around, go check out a top loin roast.
Okay, so now it's time for my favorite part, which is the potatoes, and they're gonna basically steal the show in this whole recipe. So I'm gonna start with 5 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. They're creamy and buttery, and they're gonna get insanely tender, and they suck up all the juices in this recipe. So first I'm gonna peel. Okay, I'm gonna trim the bottom 1/4 inch from both sides, but we're gonna leave these really big. I'm just gonna go right in half like this, and that's it. So we have a really nice brownable surface, big roast, big potatoes.
Right.
So then we're gonna season these up. I have 2 teaspoons of kosher salt and a teaspoon of pepper. Do a little mix on these again. Okay, great. Those are all seasoned up. Before they go into the pan, we're gonna take care of our beef here.
All right.
So I've got my roasting pan here with a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil in the bottom. Take my gorgeous roast. It's gonna go fat side down, right in the center.
All right.
Now the scraps. If we browned this and roasted this to get all of the juices out of it so that they could get into the potatoes, this thing would be leathery and dried out.
Right.
These scraps, I can completely obliterate. We're not gonna eat them, so I can use them to get tons of fond and then extract a lot of that into a great jus. So I'm just gonna sprinkle these around. Okay, great. So now I'm gonna turn my heat on to medium, and we're gonna cook this for about 8 to 12 minutes until that fat cap is gorgeously browned. We're gonna flip it over and get the other side. And these scraps all the while will get nice and dark. Some beautiful browning. You see the scraps are looking really good, but the most gorgeous thing is this roast. So I haven't touched it to this point yet. It's just been on that fat cap side down. So we're gonna do a flip here, and you'll get to see just how gorgeous
Yes.
that cap has become. So that cross-hatching, you can see the big value to it now. So we're gonna let this go. Again, the scraps are gonna keep browning. We're gonna get some good browning on the bottom here, probably about 6 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna turn the heat off. We've got such good browning all over. I know, it looks like we should be able to eat it now. We're gonna have to wait a little bit longer.
That crackling on top looks beautiful.
So good. So I'm gonna transfer the roast out over here to a plate. Set that aside. And now I've got a slotted spoon and my saucepan over here. We're gonna take the scraps out, get them into here, and then we're gonna use them to extract into a really beautiful sauce.
Love this idea.
Okay, so now finally, the first time that potatoes and beef are gonna meet in this recipe. We have lots of great rendered beef fat here, and we have these gorgeous potatoes with a flat side on them. So they're gonna go cut side down into the fat. Okay, so now it's time to get some really beautiful browning on the bottom of these potatoes. So I'm gonna turn the heat back to medium. We're gonna let these go. I'm not gonna flip them, but I can check them every now and then with some tongs to see how we're doing. We're looking for really good browning around the outside, and that's gonna take about 15 to 20 minutes. So it's been 20 minutes. Let's check out one of our potatoes. Now sometimes they stick a little bit at this stage, so you don't wanna pry them off, but if they come loose, you can check really easily, and that is gorgeous browning. It's not fully browned all over, but there's gonna be more time for that. So I'm gonna turn off the heat at this point and then remove it from the heat. Let it cool down just a touch. This is when we finally get our roast and our potatoes together. We've been wanting that for a while. But here's the thing, is we wanna cook that roast really low and slow, right? So we get medium rare meat from edge to edge,
Correct.
really nice and juicy. Potatoes, if you cook them at that low rate, they never fully soften.
No, no.
We're solving that problem by using a sheet of foil. We're gonna press right onto the surface, trap steam in there, which is gonna be key, and the roast is gonna be sitting on top.
Gotcha.
Okay, great. So that's gonna trap a ton of steam in there, help those potatoes cook. But we want some of the juices from the roast to drip down in there. So we're just gonna poke 5 holes right in the middle. So our roast is gonna go right in the center. We're gonna go into a 300-degree oven, which is nice and low, but it's gonna get really steamy and cook those potatoes through perfectly. This is gonna take about an hour and a quarter, and we're looking for 115 degrees in the center. So now it is time to go back to our scraps, and we're gonna build a really intense sauce out of this. That's gonna help season those potatoes really nicely. So we're looking for all kinds of beefy stuff here. We've got our scraps, we've got 5 cups of beef broth, and we're gonna add some aromatic quality to this with 6 sprigs of thyme and 2 sprigs of rosemary. These are classic flavors for potatoes and beef, it's awesome. We're also gonna bump up the unctuous quotient a little bit with some powdered gelatin. So gelatin, we know, adds tons of viscosity and richness to broths, and so this is 2 tablespoons of unflavored gelatin.
So it's gonna cling to the beef later on.
And then 4 cloves of garlic that we just smashed lightly. So I'm gonna bring this up to a boil over medium-high heat and then reduce it to a simmer, and we'll go for about 15 minutes just to extract as much as we can out of those scraps.
All right.
Beautiful, that smells good.
It smells great.
All right, so we're gonna strain it off. Those scraps have given up a lot of good beefiness. And we'll just press on those solids, get as much as we can out. We're looking for 4 cups. Now, if you end up with a little bit less, you can add water to get back up to that. But this looks perfect. Ooh, it's beautiful. All right, I'm gonna take this out, and if you wouldn't mind popping that up to 500 degrees.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking for 115 degrees in the center of this roast, and that is perfect. Got it.
All right.
We'll transfer our roast over to this carving board. Okay, and I'm gonna let this foil do double duty as a foil shield for this. Nice little tent, keep it warm.
Very nice.
Okay, so now to our gorgeous potatoes. It is now time to flip them.
Oh, wow, look at that color.
Isn't that beautiful?
These look gorgeous.
Browning is absolutely beautiful, but we're not done getting the beef into these potatoes. So we have our gorgeous liquid that we made before. We'll pour this in and around. So we're gonna go back in that oven. It's okay that it hasn't come up to 500 yet. It's gonna keep climbing. We're gonna cook this until the liquid is reduced by about half, which takes 20 to 30 minutes. Look at these potatoes.
They're stunning.
They're stunning,
They're like
right?
little jewels in there.
These are perfect. So I'm gonna very carefully, they're incredibly tender, transfer them over to our serving platter. Oh, those are so beautiful. So this liquid has done a lot for us with the potatoes, but it's not done yet. We're gonna defat it. So I'm gonna pour it into this fat separator over here. We're gonna let that sit for about 5 minutes. It's gonna separate that fat out, and then we can pour off the gorgeous jus underneath. In the meantime, we can carve up our gorgeous beef roast. Time to slice into our rested roast over here. So we're gonna do about 1/2-inch thick slices. Beautiful.
Oh, lovely. And look how evenly cooked it is as well.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Yep.
Now I'm just gonna transfer these over to our platter.
Gorgeous.
Okay, great. We'll come over here. This is settled. You can see that layer of fat on top.
Yes.
So now I'm going to separate it out into this bowl, and I love this fat separator. Just comes right out the bottom. And we'll just leave that fat behind. I'm going to serve you the beef first. All right, which potato you want?
You pick.
I'm going to give you 2, though. You're not going to want just one. And a little bit of this gorgeous sauce. You can see how velvety that is.
That is lovely. What's nice too is that a little bit of the potato starch has gone into the sauce to it, so it has a bit more body.
Ready to dig in?
Let's tuck in. All right. You know, it's called roast beef and potatoes, right? So I got to start with the beef.
You got to start with the beef. I understand.
So tender.
So tender.
Really well seasoned.
It's buttery. Make sure you get some of that crispy crust on the top there, that fat cap.
It is. It's almost like prime rib in the center there. Got a few bites of beef in before I go into the potatoes, because I'm afraid once I tuck in here, I might not go back.
You might not go back. All right, so you can use a knife, but it's almost unnecessary.
There's no resistance there. Just on the crust itself. Once you're into the potato, no resistance.
It's so beefy. Like, I know it's a potato, technically speaking, but it's so beefy.
I think at this point it's actually meat.
It's turned into meat.
Yes.
It's so good.
These potatoes melt in your mouth.
Are you still in the beef camp, or did you come over to the potato side?
I will always have one leg planted firmly in camp beef,
Okay.
but my other two legs are in camp potato.
All right, 2-to-1. That sounds good.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
This beautiful meal starts with a top loin roast. Trim, season, and refrigerate the roast. Brown on the stovetop, arrange halved Yukon Gold potatoes in the pan, and then cook them until browned. Cover with foil, place the beef on top, and cook in the oven. Meanwhile, simmer beef broth, herbs, gelatin, and those beef trimmings to make a beautiful sauce. While the roast rests, cook the potatoes in the sauce and then slice the roast and serve. So from America's Test Kitchen to your kitchen, beef top loin roast with potatoes. I think it should be potatoes with beef top loin roast.
I completely agree.
Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.